Welcome back in. Today I'm going to be discussing players you should be looking to draft if you are selecting from the 101 through the 104. We're going to go rounds 1 through 10 to kind of help you out here and give you an idea of what your draft could look like and some of the players that are going to be sitting there on the board and when is your time to pick. Now, I will say this, picking from the 101 to the 104, it can be tough. Same thing as picking at the back half of your draft because you end up feeling this sense of a panic at certain times when you start seeing players fly off the board because you feel like you're going to miss out on somebody. So you don't want to miss out on a run. So like a quarterback run. So you may end up overdrafting a quarterback or overdrafting a player because you're afraid of missing out, right? That FOMO that sets in. And I would advise against that. The best way you can draft, I think, is setting up your own tiers, your own rankings, have a cheat sheet, but don't go off like ESPN's or Yahoo's or wherever you're drafting, their predetermined rankings they have set up. But I do think it's something good to monitor, something good to look at because you're going to get a lot of players who could end up falling in drafts because of where they're ranked by ESPN, or guys that are going to be overdrafted because of where they're ranked by ESPN or Yahoo. And those are certainly some avenues that you can exploit in your draft. So it certainly is something you should be taking a look at and something that you can kind of monitor to kind of see where these guys are going in those atmospheres, because it's going to give you a good idea of some avenues that you can target in your draft. So without further ado, let's get into it and stop wasting your time. So as starting off at the 101. Now, listen, I have said it all offseason, and I'm going to continue to say it. I want an elite wide receiver or Travis Kelce with my first pick, with that first round pick. I think there are a ton of options. Obviously, if you've got the 101, you're going to go Justin Jefferson. He just makes the most sense. There's no really reason to talk about him other than the fact that he is an elite wide receiver in a great offense. This offense is going to be top 10 in pace. They're going to be top 10 in pass attempts this year. So there's not a whole lot else to talk about with him. And Jamar Chase is in the same situation. He just has a little bit better target competition in terms of you have T. Higgins already there, Tyler Boyd, Irv Smith, Joe Mixon. Like there's some other names here, especially someone like T. Higgins, who's going to command targets as well. But Jamar Chase is obviously still in an elite spot. And then you have Cooper Kupp, who I think is being a little bit undervalued. I think he should be going at the 103. I'm not worried about the little injury that he suffered. Them holding him out of camp doesn't really matter to me whatsoever. He'll be back most adequately for week 1. So I'm not worried about that at all. His ceiling is absolutely elite. Even in the 8 games he played last year, he averaged almost 25 fantasy points per game over that stretch. So he's going to see a boatload of targets in this offense. And so I love Cooper Kupp. Now, why not Christian McCaffrey or Austin Eckler? Now, Christian McCaffrey, I think, is obviously a great pick. But honestly, I think the way the running back position has been pushed down this year, I think more than anything is why I just don't want to take a running back here with these first 4 picks. I know, traditional, years past fantasy football, you saw this was complete opposite. We didn't see wide receivers like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase going this early. You would have seen these guys going at like 107, 108, 109, the best wide receivers. And that's why, to me, I want to get elite wide receivers because these guys are coming off the board so much sooner. So once you get over to round 2, when you see somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown sitting there pushing that button all day if he's sitting there. Now, obviously, if somebody like Tony Pollard were to fall, into this range, I would definitely be going with him, but he's not. He's going earlier than that. So for me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the easiest pick you can make in round 2 because I think the ceiling is just absolutely massive. We've seen him the last 2 years be fantastic. Nothing has changed in this offense. Really, there's no real target competition outside of himself. Jameson Williams is going to be suspended for the first 6 weeks, and honestly, that dude's had a pretty rocky start to the season already. Getting in fights in camp and everything else, and then missing the first 6 games of the season. So Amon-Ra St. Brown could be in like a Cooper Kupp type territory, and there's really an argument to be made that he should be going in the first round of fantasy drafts because of the ceiling that he provides. That he is going to give you a massive amount of targets. He's going to see over 100 plus receptions this year easily. And so I love Amon-Ra St. Brown next. And then other than that, I think Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle will be the other guys I'd be looking at. I don't want to draft Josh Jacobs. I don't know when he's going to be back. Jonathan Taylor is kind of interesting. There's been some reports recently that he is expected to come back to camp sometime soon, and he's going to play this year. But he also feels like a guy who still wants to be traded. That the first side of any injury that comes, he is just going to be, nope, I'm out. I'm going to sit. Like, there's just so many different things here with Jonathan Taylor that worry the hell out of me. So unless they get a contract situated, I don't want any part of that. And so I would rather go. So at this point, you have 2 elite wide receivers here, and I think this is a fantastic start. Now in round 3 at the turn, I think this is where I would look to go running back, and that's Joe Mixon. I think this is the guy that I really would want to get my hands on. I think Joe Mixon stands to be in a great spot this year. Great offense. There's nobody else behind him. They have Chase Brown and Travion Williams. Samaje Perine is gone. I think he's easily going to see 300 plus touches. He's going to be heavily involved in the passing game. Kind of reminds me like a Leonard Fournette type situation a few years ago when he went to the Bucks. So I think 70 plus targets is definitely there for him. So I just love Joe Mixon. I think now that we got all the legal stuff out of the way, we're not really worried about any suspension that's going to come for him. He's not getting cut. They got the contract situation done. I think Joe Mixon in round 3 is certainly a way you could go. Now in round 4, I really want to go tight end. I think in round 3 you could do that with Mark Andrews as well, but round 4 with T.J. Hawkins sitting here, you have other guys like Damian Pierce, Darren Waller, George Kittle, Justin Fields, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, all going in this range. But TJ Hawkinson, I absolutely love. I think TJ Hawkinson can provide 14, 15 fantasy points per game type upside here in this offense. No, he's not Travis Kelce, but nobody is. But I think he's the next closest thing to him being in this offense and with Minnesota. And I think this is a defense that's going to be really bad. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. And so I love TJ Hawkinson. Do like Damian Pierce a lot as well. I think he's the guy that I really was kind of going back and forth with, but I really kind of want to lock up my tight end early if I can. And so once you get to round 5, I think this is the spot that I want to start looking at a quarterback. No, I'm not going to pay the early draft capital for a Patrick Mahomes who's going in the first round right now, which is ridiculous. And then you also have like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow that are going in rounds 2 and 3 with Lamar Jackson. But Justin Herbert, I think, is at a fantastic spot. I do like Justin Fields. If you wanted to go with him in round 4 or he were to fall to round 5, I would be right there to scoop him up as well. Because I think both of those two dudes, Herbert and Fields, are the two quarterbacks that I really want to target. Obviously, Fields with his rushing upside, but then you have Justin Herbert being in an offense. It's going to be top 5 in pace, top 5 in pass attempts this year. I think Justin Herbert bounces back this year. I think adding Quentin Johnston is going to help dramatically. You still have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett. This is going to be a really good offense this year. He's only a year removed from when he was the number 3 quarterback in fantasy points per game. And so I do love Justin Herbert. And if you can get him in round 5, I am doing that all day. Round 6 is when I want to come back and get my second running back. I think there's a few running backs here in this range that I really like, whether that's Cam Akers, Alexander Madison, Isaiah Pacheco. I think are all running backs in round 6 that you could be looking to target. Even maybe a James Cook could also be an option for you here in this round. This is where I want to get my RB2 at this range. Cam Akers, I think, is in a great spot. We saw him last year, the RB4 of the final 6 weeks. Nothing's really changed. I think Kyron Williams mixes in as the pass catching running back, but overall, I still think he's in a really good spot. Now, the offense is kind of shaky because especially if something were to happen to Matt Stafford. But even if he does, we saw Cam Akers still be a viable option, even despite him not being in that offense. But obviously, the offense just wouldn't be as good without Matt Stafford. And then Alexander Madison, I don't get his ADP. He should be going higher. He is in line to see a massive amount of work in this offense. Ty Chandler and Dwayne McBride are the only other running backs in the offense. This is going to be an offense that throws the ball a lot. They obviously believe in Alexander Madison. They were able to cut Dalvin Cook, and they re-signed Alexander Madison and getting him a decent contract for a running back anyway. So I think both of those guys are the two guys that I'd be looking to target. Round 7, I think I go back to wide receiver. I think you can look at guys like Tyler Lockett, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown, and Drake London as all options you could look at take here, even maybe a George Pickens. But I think that the ones that stand out to me the most are Drake London and Brandon Ayuk. I think are the two guys that I definitely want to target. I don't understand Drake London going in round 7. I think he should go a little bit closer to Chris Olave than what he is. But Drake London, obviously, isn't going to be an offense. It's going to be throwing the ball a ton. But I think at least 100 plus, maybe 120 targets should be there for Drake London this year. He is an explosive wide receiver. I think he's going to be utilized a lot inside the red zone as an option. So I do like Drake London quite a bit here, and especially in round 7. Some of that risk is already baked out of it. But I think he has easily a wide receiver 2 upside here. So if you can get him, it's kind of like your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. I'm about that life. And then round 8, we go to back, and I'm going to go Javonte Williams here. I'm going to get my third running back. I think Javonte Williams has a huge ceiling. I'm surprised ADP hasn't gone up higher than what it should be. I think people are just afraid of him, but the injury risk is already being baked in. The discount is already there because had he been healthy, he would be going on like the 2nd or 3rd round, not the 8th. And so I love Javonte Williams. I think the upside is certainly there in this offense. Sean Payton's running back schemes always do well. We continually see his running backs finish near the top. And that's not even guys like Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram did really well in this offense. Pierre Thomas. I mean, the list goes on and on of other running backs that produce in this offense. So Javonte Williams, healthy. He's already been cleared for contact. I think he plays in one of these preseason games, and he's 100% going to be healthy for week 1. Even if he struggles right out the box, that is already being baked in because I think, even over the second half of the season, the dude's going to be an absolute baller. So I love Javonte Williams. Rounds 9 and 10, I'm looking at taking another wide receiver or running backs. This is when I just start intermixing the guys that I really want to start targeting with the guys that I think have a supreme upside. We completely should be avoiding players, Odell Beckham and Adam Thielen, and just because you know their name, or Ezekiel Elliott or Leonard Fournette, who doesn't even have a team right now, like avoid all of those guys. We're not messing around with guys that have no ceiling whatsoever. We're swinging for the fences. Jahan Dotson could be a strong wide receiver two this year if Sam Howell can be that dude. Jordan Addison in this offense that's going to be very pass heavy. Who I think could see a sizable target share in this offense year one as a rookie. Sky Moore, I think in round 10, or Khalil Herbert, who could be the Bears' number one running back. I think are all players that I would be looking to target in the later rounds. Now, once you get past that, you're going to be looking at guys like Zach Charbonnet or Kenneth Gainwell and Tank Bigsby and Jalen Warren and Roshan Johnson, Zamir White, Jerome Ford, and wide receivers like Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, Tank Dell for the Houston Texans, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Marvin Mims. Like, these are all the names that I'm going to be looking at in the later rounds that have supreme upside in their offenses. Yes, some of these guys aren't going to hit. We know that. But who cares? It's already being baked in. It's why they're being picked in the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th rounds of your draft, right? And for heaven for sakes, we are not drafting a running back. I saw that Justin Tucker's ADP on ESPN was like 68th overall. What are we doing, people? Like, get out of here with that. There is no shot I'm taking a kicker that high in any draft. You should never take a kicker or the last pick in your draft. So that being said, overall, this team looks like we have drafting elite wide receivers early. We're trying to get a running backs in rounds 2, 3, or 4. And then from there, we want to get an early round tight end. We want to get a quarterback. If you can, I think Justin Herbert or Justin Fields are the two guys that I want to target. Fade the super early guys. You don't need to go there. And then Alexander Madison in round 6, or Cam Akers is certainly where I want to get my RB2. Then we're going to start stacking up the rest of our wide receivers like Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown, getting another running back like Javonte Williams, and then going with guys like Jordan Addison, Jahan Dotson, Khalil Herbert, Sky Moore in the later rounds. And then we're going to continue to tackle those handcuff backs and, wide receivers that are being a little bit undervalued that have high ceilings from good offense is what we should be looking at taking. So that being said, let me know in the comments section below. What are your thoughts on the players that I talked about? Who did I get right? Maybe some players that you would actually take over the players that I discussed taking. Would you rather go with a Christian McCaffrey or an Austin Eckler as the top 4 of a PPR draft? Are you more online, want to take an elite wide receiver first? So let me know in the comments section below. We'll see you on the next one.